How's it going? You guys want to know how to protect your real estate investment? Well, this is the video for you. I'm Evan Saint-Gerard. Let's get into it with Peter Goodman. Peter, the floor is yours.
How are you, Evan? It's nice to be part of this. Thank you for inviting me. I'm an
Anytime.
attorney. Been practicing for 28 years now. My firm does real estate, but we also do litigation and all sorts of real estate related matters to make sure that you do protect your investment when a problem arises. But we also make sure that before you buy a property, you know what you're buying and you're in the best position to protect yourself.
So, Peter, what's the first step?
Okay, so let's look at this from two directions. One, if you're looking to buy a property and you want to make sure that you're buying the right thing and that you're protecting your investment through a title, one of the things that we recommend is a pre-title search because you want to make sure that there's no judgments, no liens. You want to make sure there's no violations. Uh, you want to make sure that you're not inheriting something that could potentially be a problem for you later on. And that's what title insurance does. People don't really understand what title insurance is. Sometimes they think it's casualty insurance where the property burns down or something. That's not what title insurance is. It's a one-time payment that makes sure that at the closing, if one day someone knocks on your door and says, hey, I own this house and not you, and I can prove it, you have title insurance to protect to make sure that you are the actual legal owner of the property. Um, if there is one day you get a letter in the mail that says you owe money on this property and you see, oh, it's a prior owner, it's not me, you're protected because you have title insurance. That's how you're protecting your property when you're the buyer. From the seller end, if you're looking to sell a property and you want to protect that property and make sure that you're not going to have a problem selling it, we recommend a pre-title search for them too. Look, whether you're a buyer or seller, someone's going to do an inspection of the property. Usually you'll do a physical inspection. Everybody knows about that, to do a physical inspection to make sure you know you're buying the property as is. Nothing is wrong with the physical condition. But people don't really think about doing a title search or a pre-title search to protect the legal condition of the property, to make sure you know what you're buying and you know what you're selling. Last thing you want to do is have a property you want to sell, and then all of a sudden you go to sell it in a month into contract, you find out that there was a violation on the property, or you find out that there was some kind of a claim against the property, and now it's going to take you weeks, months, or even longer for litigation to fix the problem. And now you either can't sell and the deal dies, or there's a delay that costs you money.
All right.
Okay.
So, what are the misconceptions that people have, basically? And you already mentioned that, basically, they think that some people think you're getting title insurance is kind of like casualty insurance. You already mentioned that. But what other misconceptions that you want to clear up?
So people don't realize that there are all sorts of misconceptions. I mean, you do this long enough, as you know, you see lots of things, and people make assumptions. They go online, and it's like when you go online and you have a pain in your side, and you go and you Google it, and you think you have cancer or something. You don't always have cancer. Hopefully, you never have cancer, right? But you just don't know because there's so many things that can take you down the wrong path. But if we're really talking about protecting your interest in title insurance, look, you want to make sure you understand what you're buying and what you can sell. So some of the things that we see a lot of times that happen is someone goes to sell a property and it's an estate. Um, they have their grandmother passed away. They're selling the property, and they don't realize that they have to go through probate. They have to go to the surrogate's court. They don't realize they have to do an administration. Or they may be able to sell it by the sole heirs and distributees. So you need to have a qualified attorney, qualified people that are looking at the property, because sometimes you can sell the property and you don't need to go through an estate. So that is a misconception. People always assume, oh, someone died, I have to go to the surrogate's court. It's going to take me 6 months. Maybe it's going to take me a year to go to the surrogate's court. But if a husband and wife own a property together and a spouse dies, they don't have to go through probate at all. It transfers automatically. If a person is entitled as a joint tenant with right of survivorship, one person dies, the surviving person becomes the owner of the property automatically. Another thing, common misconception, you have someone you've been living in the property for years with your family. Grandma owned the property. She died 5 years ago, and now you're going to sell the property. You still don't have to go through probate a lot of times. If someone has been deceased for at least 2 years, and you know who all the heirs of the estate are, and you can prove that to the title company, you can actually sell property without ever going to court as something called sole heirs and distributees. So that's another thing that is a common misconception, and people think there's a lot longer of a process when there may not be such a long process. And that's why, again, it's important to speak to experts.
I'm glad you said that. It's definitely, if you don't know, talk to the pros. Simple as that.
The pros, that's right.
You're never going to go wrong basically by asking your questions, your concerns, scenarios. Talk to the pros. You talk to the professional who do this day in, day out. Yeah, it's great to look things up, but basically you want to have a human who's actually experienced this several times that can actually give you feedback. Hey, I understand. I understand your concerns. They are valid. Here's ways basically we can take care of that. We can do A, B, or C, and then you go through the process.
Absolutely. And look, we talk about the team concept all the time in my office. And when you're buying and selling real estate, you always have to have the right team, right? You have to have the right realtor, certainly. You have to have the right attorney. You have to have the right mortgage person or financing, contractors, home inspectors, insurance. All of these things are important for a reason. You know, you wouldn't go to you wouldn't go to your internist if you had cancer, right? That you would go to a specialist, and that's why you want to have the right people, and even more so, you want to have the right people at the right time. Having an attorney, for instance, and this happens all the time, having an attorney come into a transaction when you're about to enter contract, when you already have an accepted offer, I don't personally believe is the right way to do it. You should be speaking to your attorney when you first start thinking about selling or you first start looking to purchase, because we can resolve issues up front before they become problems. And that's a
Peter,
huge
could you
thing.
say that one more time, please, for the people all the way in the back?
You need
When
to,
should they contact their attorney?
they should be contacting an attorney when they first decide to enter the market for selling and buying, because we will solve issues before they become problems. And especially if you're in the city of New York. If you're in the city of New York, it's going to take a while. Sometimes you get a violation or HPD, a tenant complains about something, and there's a violation, and you need to clear that. That could take a lot of time to resolve. So if you start thinking about resolving it when you're in contract and you're 60 days away from closing, it's a lot harder to do that when you first listing the property and maybe you're 120 or 180 days away.
One of the things that Peter said, I want people not to lose track of what he said, and it's something I hold dear. Basically, when I'm having a consultation with my buyers and my sellers, before we do anything, who is your attorney? Who is your real estate attorney? I have to stress that. Who is your real estate attorney? And you have to give me a name before we can do anything. I need to know who that is, basically, so I can have a conversation with them also, make sure we're in alignment, because the team has to be in alignment, because we're all working for the common goal, which is you, our client. So we all have to be on the same page. And it's very important that you have a real estate attorney. I cannot stress that enough. Do not get a trial attorney to do your real estate. You can do whatever you want. It's up to you. But if you want a smooth transaction, you get a real estate attorney to handle your real estate deals.
No, absolutely. And look, just as to talk about that a little bit further, it's not just the legal issues, because like everything else is everything's customer service, right? So you want to make sure that you provide a good quality service, but you also want to have experience. And in a real estate market, if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, speed is important and experience is important. And understand, if you're talking about protecting yourself, you want to buy a property, you want to sell a property, you're not legally obligated to either side until you have a fully signed contract and a down payment. So you may get out a deal sheet as a realtor, or you may have a handshake deal, but there's no commitment. I've had several deals, especially when the interest rates were low, where someone would go and do a home inspection, they pay $600, $700, $800 for that inspection, and then they wouldn't really understand how fast that process needed. They loved the house, they did the inspection, and the next day the seller got a higher offer, went with a higher offer. The buyers didn't get their $600, $700 back, and they didn't get the house. Because if you were experienced and use experienced people, the attorney would suggest to the seller's attorney, your buyer's attorney would say, hey, let's get the contracts done now. I know the inspection's on Tuesday. Today's Monday, or it's on Wednesday. Today's Monday. Let's do the contracts now. So the second the buyers do that inspection and say, yes, I want the house, we're signing contracts. And that's something that a trial attorney is not doing for you.
It's a beautiful thing that you just said. Basically, it's something I preach to my clients, especially on the buyer side. If we're seeing a home, I need to know who your attorney is. and then you need to call them basically right away when the offer gets accepted. We have an accepted offer. We're scheduling the home inspector. We're doing everything around the same time frame. We're meeting with the home inspector. We're speaking to the home inspector. We're scheduling the home inspection at whatever time frame. In that meantime, the attorney, which is Peter, will draft up the contract and whatnot and send it over to the other side. He's already having dialogue with the other side. Whoever you're choosing, hopefully it's not a trial attorney, they're already drafting the contract. They already sent it over basically to the other side. They're already in communication with the seller side, vice versa, and they're having communication. You as the buyer, you schedule your appointment basically with your home inspection. And yes, it's important for you to be there for your home inspection. Be there for the home inspection and schedule that, and pay attention to what I can't tell my buyers enough times. Pay attention to what your home inspection is saying, not just looking around the house. I'm going to put the couch over there. Big screen TV is going to be over here. You can plan all that stuff later on. Pay attention to what your home inspector is saying. And for the sellers, during the home inspection, just open up the door. You don't need to be there. You don't need to voice your opinions about whatever. Just open up the door. The less you say, the better.
That's great advice. You never know. You leave it to the professionals. I mean, and by the way, you really shouldn't even be at the house if you're the seller. Let the realtors handle it, because it's emotion. When emotion and business are combined, it's not a good thing. So you don't want to, when the home inspector says something about the house, you don't want to start arguing with them when you're the seller, right? But also, as you said, paying attention. If you're the buyer on a property and you're walking to the house with the inspector, depending on the leverage you have to negotiate, if there's something that really bothers you at the inspection, like you don't like a repair, well, in certain circumstances, you can work out a credit. Sometimes you can work out a reduction in the price. Sometimes you can work out a repair. I usually recommend that unless you have to have it repaired for like an FHA mortgage or something like that, work out some kind of a credit, because the seller, if he or she has to fix something, they're not going to do as good a job as you might do. So if you can work something out where you have some leverage, the house, there's not 25 offers. There's 25 offers, the seller's not going to want to negotiate. But if the house has been on the market for a while and you may be able to negotiate a repair, negotiate it as a credit as opposed to a repair.
That brings up my next point. Who you choose as your realtor, the negotiating skill comes in very handy, both on the seller side and on the buyer side. So you make sure whoever you're picking is a reputable person and they've been in this for a long time. I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but you don't want to get a part-time agent basically to do this, because this is a big investment. Whether you're selling or you're buying, it's a big investment. You want to go with somebody who's experienced. I said what I said.
You're 100% right, though. I mean, the more experience you have, it's like anything else. People talk about who should I use. Sometimes there are people that they only care about the price, right? And you get what you pay for is a saying for a reason. And I back to this, since we're using the doctor example, nobody goes to the cheapest doctor, right?
Never.
The best doctor. You go to people that are experienced and know what they're doing, that are doing this every day. A part-time agent, I mean, they're doing this part-time. If you like a house and you're ready to go, you need that person available. And if you are dealing with someone that's in the market every day, they see what's going on every day. This is their business. This is their livelihood. They make sure they are up on the topic. They are not doing this just because it's their side gig.
All right, so tie this up in a bow for us. Basically, they got all this information. They want to get to the closing table. What do they have to do to get to the closing table?
Okay, so an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's the best thing I can say, and that's why getting the right team in place, making sure that you get some preliminary title searches, or having someone do those searches to make sure that you know what you're buying, so you're not going to have a delay or a dead deal halfway through the process, and making sure you understand what you're signing and you understand the process. Knowledge is power. Keep coming up with these different cliches, but they're cliches for a reason. And
yes,
they're someone smarter than us came up with these things, and obviously because of experience. So experience is the last thing I'll say. Experience is extremely important. It is not. People think, it's easy to do a real estate deal. Attorneys that do corporate, they say, "Oh, it's easy to do a real estate deal." Yeah, it may be until there's a problem and your corporate attorney doesn't understand how to solve the problem, and now either you have a dead deal or you're losing the 10% down payment because they missed something in the contract.
Well, that's the other thing I want to talk to you about the seller side. You're using a corporate attorney, like you just said, you're losing time and money. Let's say basically you're selling and buying at the same time, and you're using this corporate attorney or trial attorney. That's costing you money, and you're losing the house that you're potentially buying on the other side also. If you need the funds for this house to use to purchase the other house, who you work with matters. I can't say that enough.
Yep, it does. It's amazing how often, and everybody knows it. In your heart of hearts, we all realize that, especially when you're buying a house, even if it's an investment property, it's one of the most expensive things you're ever going to buy, but it's also one of the most cherished things you're ever going to own. So, make sure you have the right team in place.
Well, this is a good segue. Basically, if they want to find the right person to work with when it comes to legal representation for real estate, how can they reach you, Peter?
Easy. So you can do one of two things. You can email us or you can call us. We have offices in Brooklyn and Long Island throughout the city. So you can reach any office through 516-747-1136, or you can email us at RE, stands for real estate, RE at BFS Law Firm. That's B as in boy, F as in Frank, S as in Sam, lawfirm.com.
All right, awesome. All right, before we go, I'm going to give you the last word. Basically, give the people words of encouragement for people who are thinking about buying and selling. Is it 2024? Give them some words of encouragement.
Okay,
Floor is
great.
yours.
It's always a good time to buy real estate. I can't stress that enough. People always say it's the wrong time. Interest rates are high. Prices are high. You can have an excuse every day of the week. I learned this the hard way myself. I didn't start buying real estate myself because I kept saying it's the wrong time. It's always the right time. You remember, you marry the house, you rent the rate. So if the deal is good and you are ready and you want to buy a house now, you buy a house now. If you need to sell your house because you have a 5-bedroom house and your kids are out of the house now, and you don't want to sell because the rates are high or you think the market is going a different way, you will be saying the same thing today, tomorrow, and next year. The time to do it is now. It's always now. So if you decide I want to buy a house now, or you decide I want to sell a house now, the time is now. Don't worry about the excuses, because there is always an excuse and there is always a good deal out there. No matter what the market is, there is always a good deal. Take it from me. I've been doing this since 1995, and I've seen the market go every which way, and there's always been a good deal in every single one of those markets.